yogis. Welcome to your Maya reset practice today. The practice we're working with today is My Mayura. Mayura is a Sanskrit name for peacock. And when you think of the peacock, we normally think about his extravagant, beautiful, bright, leery tail feathers. Now, the peacock is creative, he is elegant, he is charming, but even he cannot maintain that display for extended periods of time. Now, Brahma, the energy and the Dharma that we're working with throughout all practices this week, Brahma was often depicted, seen riding on his vehicle like a chariot, a peacock. And Brahma is the god of creation. And so collectively, this pair created all beings, the world. Brahma created the gods, the other deities that we know of. And when we are in that space and place of creation, it's fiery, it's bright, it's energetic, and it's go, go, go. But we can't stay there for extended periods of time. Today's reset practice is allowing there to be a softness and creating a space for that creative energy to flow through you. Let's begin in our opening posture. We'll be using all the props today. If you haven't already found yourself all of your bits and pieces, then feel free to hit pause in just a moment. We'll be utilizing a bolster, 2 blocks, a blanket if you choose, and a strap or belt also if you choose. From here, yogis, take your bolster, and we're going to be setting that one up running across the mat rather than up and down the mat. We're going to be taking a Baddha Konasana. Now, often we take our Baddha Konasana seated upon the mat, and we open from the soles of the feet like books, and our knees drape, and there can sometimes be space. What we do though is when we're seated down on the ground, our low back tends to arch and release in. For today, I want you to picture your spine like those peacock feathers, elongating, extending. And we want to be using the end of the bolster, the edge of the bolster, to tip you or to tilt you forwards. Now, your blocks might come in handy here as well. With this little bit of extra height for our spine, it's nice to have a little bit of support for the knees. Don't need them, but you're welcome to use them if it feels comfortable, and it will probably feel comfortable. We're going to prop ourselves up right at the top end of the bolster. Take a little pelvic tilt, and you might even allow the pubic bone to drape just a little over the end of the bolster. Soles of the feet will come together. They don't need to be in super close to the pubic bone. So you can have a little bit of space between your heels and your hips if that feels good. I find though when I draw mine in closer, it really does accentuate that elevation of the spine and assist for that height. From here, you can either have the knees free floating and draping, feel in already to that gravity and that weight drawing them to open. If you do want to utilize blocks as support, instinctively I already went to place them at the medium height, and I noticed that it backed off my hips a little. So you do want to soften, you do want to drape, but you might find that you drop them, although floating, to the lowest point. Maybe initially there's just a gentle contact. But as you work with the tilt and as you allow this heaviness, as you allow this sensation of letting go, the hips will soften, that external rotation and that opening through the pelvis is encouraged when there's no support. So maybe you take your support just a little lower than where you know you can go, making any little adjustments as you need. or as you like. Maybe propping up those blocks just beneath the thighs rather than the knees. Allowing the sensation to be soft. And with our spine elongated, we draw the chin down gently, opening through the back of the neck. Yogis, today we're coming to our Mayura mudra for the start of practice. And we'll be using the left hand today, your feminine side, your soft side, your creative side. And with the right palm turned over, feel free to just rest the back of the hand upon the thigh, wherever feels comfortable. Maybe you draw it into the thigh. Open and ready to receive that masculine side. We're letting it be. We're letting it open. Flipping things on its head. Left palm open and exposed towards the front of the room. We take the thumb and the ring finger. We connect them, just like when we work with our Prithvi mudra, but your palm stays open. Your remaining 3 fingers stay elevated. Tips of that ring finger and thumb connecting. And with these remaining 3 fingers extended nice and high, they're elongated. They stand loud and proud, exposed, showing the world all they are made of. And even within the mudra itself, as we settle in, we settle the shoulders, we settle the elbow. As we connect that fiery Agni element of the thumb and that earth element of the ring finger, connecting that fire and softening it into the earth. We're humbly bowing down and offering that earth element to soften into the fire, to soften, reducing the heat, giving our creative energy a moment of reprieve. And just as we humbly bow down here in our Mayura mudra, and we drape the chin, and we invite this softening. And just like the peacock, it doesn't make him any less confident, doesn't make him any less proud, doesn't make him any less able, colourful, bright or creative. When he drapes his tail feathers, when he bows down humbly to the feminine, for his power and all that creative energy still resides right there. And it's within you too. As you settle in and take your final breath here in stillness, I invite you to release the exhale, release the pressure, the expectation to constantly be showing up with that same fiery energy. As we soften in, let's release the mudra. Let's release out of the posture, assisting the knees, slowly drawing them in and finding the soles of the feet upon the mat. Walk them back and find a gentle hug, maybe making a pillow with the hands, the arms. We bow down, forehead maybe meeting the knees or the backs of the hands. And deepening that posture just a little and releasing and inviting more softening. We're taking our Baddha Konasana in a supta position. Have that blanket nice and handy. We'll be swinging around to find the length of the mat now, as you also swing the bolster to the length of the mat. And this time your finding your sit bones just off the end of the bolster. Tuck the pelvis in nice and tight, snuggling it into the back end of that bolster. We come back to our soles connecting the feet, the blocks resting beside us, supporting our knees. If you do have a belt and you'd like to take a little bound position here, and this is certainly an option, you'll want to take the strap around the back body before you lay back and feed it around the front. The buckle nice and handy just off to maybe the right side as you tuck the belt or the strap beneath the outer blades of those feet. And when you find a bind like this and feed the strap through, you'll find the pressure that we apply, the pressure that we can find with the use of the strap, interestingly enough, allows you to then let go without the need for this conscious contraction. When there's an assistance, when there's another vehicle, just like Brahma's vehicle, he's able to let go. And when we let go, we can drop in and find a deeper surrender. Now, if you do have a blanket and you're using that, this feels so nice to keep the legs nice and warm, especially if you're in a bind. You would just simply drape that over the feet and also the pelvis. And with that bolster tucked in to the back body, we'll slowly, slowly lower back, inviting the spine to connect to the bolster. Now you'll find if you did apply the belt, the strap, to create this bound Supta Baddha Konasana, and if you were in the tight position when you were in your seat and found your full extension, then it might feel a little uncomfortable and a little bit much in this Supta Baddha Konasana position. So feel free to release a little bit out of that strap. Feel free to draw the blocks a little further away rather than have them beneath the thigh. You might take them out and just allow the edge of the knee to meet the block. You want to position the strap so there's tension and contraction and support so that you can let go. You want to position the blocks so that they're supporting your opening, your release. So explore a little, play, reposition to wherever feels comfortable, to wherever offers and provides you a little bit of support but doesn't hold you back. You feel held, but within that hold, you're able to be offered the reprieve of releasing that creative energy, releasing your contraction. And from here, once you've found your comfortable position, we open the chest, we open the palms, encourage the rib cage to open, the shoulders to open, and either drape the arms beside the body, or if that feels really quite comfortable and you want to deepen the posture a little more, then take the hands overhead and begin opening through the rib cage and the chest. Yogis, you're here for a few more rounds of breath yet, so I invite you to find a complete surrender. Notice if you're still fidgeting. Notice if there's discomfort within the posture that arises. And as that discomfort arises, of which it undoubtedly will at some point, in some place within your body, whether it be your joints, your muscles, your ligaments, your tendons, or whether it be your emotional body, your breath, your pranic body, your energetic body. Maybe the discomfort comes from the mind. Either way, as that discomfort rises, acknowledge it. Don't ignore it. Notice it. And smile, knowing that there's two sides to that peacock. That fiery, creative side. But what's behind that fiery, creative side? Is the want, the need, the desire to be wanted, to be loved, the soft side. And if not for that soft side, if not for that balance, would there be any fire? Would the peacock be so beautiful? Yogis, prepare and take your final breath for today in your bound Supta Virasana. Oh, Supta Baddha Konasana. Your Supta Virasana is yet to come. Let's slowly draw the arms to elevate and pressing the hands into the sides of the mat. Draw the chin to chest as you press, assisting yourself to rise. And when we find these deep postures, we need to move slowly out of them. Maybe you keep the eyes closed down for just a little while. Oh, take a breath and find some length through the spine once more. And if you were bound in that position, slowly release out of the strap, maybe keeping it connected, preparing for your next posture. As you release out of that bind, that strap, we take it off to the side and slowly invite the knees to draw back together. And drawing the soles of the feet to draw back together and take them a little wider this time. And come back to create that pillow, maybe forehead to meet the knees or forehead to meet the drape of the arms, wrist upon wrist, hand upon hand. Working so heavily through the legs in our strength postures upon the mat, in our flow, in our hatha style practice. We don't often get the reprieve of this time. Yogis, we're drawing into now a bound Supta Virasana. You're going to be providing yourself just a little extra elevation potentially, showing you where we're going so you can make the decision. We're going to be backing into the bolster and this time sinking the hips between the heels. The knees draw together, the shins are in alignment, and you'll be slowly draping back into your Supta Virasana, again, open palms. It's a little deeper on the spine. It's a little more opening rather than through the external rotators through the front of their quads. So if you know that your hip flexors, your quads are a little tight, you're going to now want to take these two blocks and set them up beneath the bolster to offer yourself a little bit of height. Now, if you know that you're really quite open through the quads, feel free to just take this straight onto the bolster. Usually when I work with the blocks for this posture, I like to take the top block, the cork block, to the medium height and that middle block to the lowest height. Set your bolster up, supported, creating an incline there or a decline, depending on your perspective. And we'll draw back to the front of the room and find yourself in a hero pose, tucking the hips back into the bolster. And if you are opting to work in your binds today, The strap now we take beneath the shins, setting yourself once more so that you've got access to that strap to pull yourself in nice and tight. Now you're simply offering that connection for the legs for the same purpose as you did if you took that option in your bound Supta Baddha Konasana. And you'll find once you apply that pressure, you can then soften and let go. If you're working with a blanket, take that over the knees. Maybe you take it over the entirety of your body. And these postures are really nice as well to be done in a pair of socks to keep the feet nice and warm if you're not working with a blanket. Or slowly drape the body back, take the hands to the bolster behind you, and invite the pelvis to connect to the bolster. Invite the low back, slowly settling the entire spine and maybe adjusting the blanket to keep the body nice and warm. Now you're working with that release and that opening through the pelvis, working to release the muscles, the meaty muscles of the front of the legs. Notice if you're holding any tension in the toes and reset them nice and wide, inviting them to soften. Notice if you are holding any tension through the neck, through the upper body. And as you set yourself up and make these micro adjustments now upon the bolster, create space between the shoulders and the ears, open the palms, and this time you will drape the hands beside the body. Your alternate option, if you would like to deepen through the chest and explore a little more spaciousness there, is to now take the hands to the opposing elbows and take that overhead, resting the forearms above your head upon the bolster, resting the hands elbow to elbow. And this feels so spacious when you take the bind overhead. Feel free to experiment, explore, and take a moment to check in with the bind overhead, and then reset yourself up with hands beside the body if it feels more comfortable. This is my Peacock, my Mirasana. Feel free to take yours. And as you settle the breath once more, and settle into stillness once more, we come back to our Dharma, we come back to our purpose. And as we find purpose upon the mat in our postures, and as we find purpose and meaning in our lives and in our days, everything becomes more meaningful. And we find we act with purpose, we breathe with purpose, we become purposeful. And so as you settle in to your breath, to your body, to this posture, the purpose as you open through those strong muscles of the legs is to feel into that polarity and that softening. And often our strong, proud legs, chest, spine, upper body hold us in position, hold us with fiery intent to our creative alignment, just like Brahma works to find that clarity and that alignment with your creative energy. It too needs rest. It too needs reprieve. It too needs to be met with that feminine softness. And even as Brahma was going about his creation, the gods, the deities, the good, the bad, he created all of the polarities that we know. He would check out of his body and disconnect for periods of time. And it was within those periods of time that those energies were released. It wasn't in the doing, it was in the being that brought them to life. As you take your final breath now in your posture of being, let's prepare to move, breaking it up with some doing. As you inhale, wherever your arms, whatever your position, inhale and send them overhead. Maybe find an interlacing of the hands and extend them overhead. As you exhale, send them towards the front of the room, draw chin to chest and plant the palms into the mat as you draw to rise. If you opted for a bind, remove your blanket, release out of that belt, that bind, that strap. And just as we have done in our previous postures, know that this deep posture requires a soft release. Leave your bolster set up as is, remove the blanket and slowly roll over the hands, the knees. And we're going to take a little runner's lunge here as you find an extension of the legs one at a time, opening through the back of the leg, drawing into the ball of the foot, pressing one foot back, and maybe you press into the hands and draw into a three-leg dog, maybe opening and find a scorpion, a release. As you settle back in and rest the knees back onto the mat, we'll switch sides, extending the opposing side. Take a moment in your runner's lunge, maybe rocking back and forward, feeling into the stability and the security of your legs, of your feet. Press into the hands and draw into a three-leg dog, opening the hips and maybe finding your scorpion here. As we settle back in and find the knees connecting to the mat once more, we're going to be taking a rotation. Bolster's already set up for you for our two final postures today. Our next posture is a supported posture. And we're going to be draping our body into a Paschimottanasana. So we're going to be getting out of these legs, and feel free to keep that blankie nice and handy as we do want to stay nice and warm. And as you release out of the knees, we'll extend the legs and position ourselves so that the bolster is still upon those blocks, but now the bottom end is sitting up upon your thighs. You want to find yourself in close enough so that you are able to connect the bolster to the low belly. So repositioning and maybe even offering a little more support. It's a nice idea here to adjust that middle block to medium height and draw it back between the legs for that support. And maybe the top block draws in a little too. And from here, yogis, we're going to be slowly draping the body forwards. First of all, releasing out of the sit bones and taking that gentle tilt to the pelvis. Releasing the meaty part of the buttocks and pressing into the bolster and embedding that into the low belly, and then slowly pouring the body forwards, rounding through the back body and finding support and making any adjustments you need. So we want the entire front body supported. Feel the belly supported. Check in with the rib cage. Are your low ribs supported? Are your upper ribs supported? If they need a little more height, then maybe you draw that top block to the highest point. Maybe you bring the blocks in a little closer, and draping forwards and feeling the chest supported. And you can either take the forehead down as you maybe interlace the hands and rest the forehead upon the fingertips, or if your neck needs a release, and feel free to take it to one side, as we'll be working here for a total of 6 breaths each side if you are working with sides, or keep it neutral for 12. Knowing that we want to stay nice and warm, if you have your blanket handy, then feel free to drape that over the back body, over the legs, over the feet, keeping the toes nice and warm, the legs nice and warm. And come back to your drape. If you're working with one side cervical, you're here for 3 more breaths. Use the inhale to send the breath, to open and expand the back of your ribs, the back of your heart as you exhale. Notice if you're still holding on. Notice if you're still holding on to any contraction. Take 2 more breaths this side. Softening into your breath. Softening into the posture. And final breath, and as you prepare to take your next inhale, slowly draw the head to rise, drawing through center, taking that rotation and setting up the opposing cheek, the opposing ear to the support of your hands, the support of the bolster, and settling in for 5 more breaths. And we often talk about and refer to Brahma as that God of creation and that creative energy, and just as those polarities of good and bad and all of the creative and destructive energies reside within us, know that that too needs support, know that that too needs a vehicle. And just as Brahma has had his vehicle, his Vahana, and Vahana is that which carries you, and that which supports you. Yogis, take your final breath. Know that your yoga practice, your breath, your postures are your Vahana, that which support you, that which carry you to enable that creative energy to flow freely through you. Slowly draw to rise. Releasing out of your Paschimottanasana, we take our final posture today. You're going to be setting the bolster back to its original position, maybe medium and low height. And coming back to give yourself a little bit of space between the pelvis and the bolster. Draw into a Sukhasana as your transition, and then set the big toes together behind you. We'll walk back in. We're going to be taking a supported balasana here. Now we'll all be a little different in support, but one thing that will be the same is we want the back body again to remain nice and warm. So take the blanket this time to drape over your hips, your toes, your knees, your legs, the low back. And then from here, you'll hug the bolster with the thighs. Set it up so when you take the tilt of the pelvis, the low belly is supported. Slowly draping forwards and feel into that release of the front body now upon the bolster. Feeling into the polarity of the postures we've just explored, making any little adjustments that feel good for you to offer your belly support, to offer your ribs support. And this time we're keeping the spine neutral and opening through the throat and drawing the chin down to connect to that bolster. And we extend the arms forwards and rotate the palms open to the sky. As you settle into your supported balasana. We are here for 6 breaths. And once again, sending the breath to the back of your heart, opening and expanding laterally, opening and expanding the entire back body, using your breath as that vehicle to drive that creative energy, the prana, your Vahana, that which carries, that which supports, and that which pulls. And yogis, take 2 more breaths, feeling into your Vahana. And as you flip the palms, we'll press into the mat. And take a moment here and hang the head opening through the back of your neck, opening through the back of your heart. Slowly walk it in and rounding out through the entire back body now. And let's release out and ripple the spine to rise, finding length through to the crown. We're going to release out of these sit bones. Release out of, onto the sit bones, release out of the feet, and slowly find your way off the bolster. Release the blocks and take them to the side of your mat. And find yourself supported, this time with the bolster running up and down the mat in a Sukhasana. And as you come back to your easy cross leg, your Sukhasana, we keep the hips warm, the legs warm. We drape the blanket over the pelvis, opening the feet, opening the knees, and settling into your seat. With the hips elevated and the hips open, with the knees softening down. We find length through the spine and turn the palms now down and pressing into the legs. We find some fluidity through the spine. We're going to find some Sufi grinds here in this elevation. Gentle rotation through the pelvis. And as you pour forwards, using that tilt from the bolster to open through the belly, to open through the heart. And as you draw back into the back body, we tuck chin into chest. We'll take just 4 or 5 rounds in the direction you're working in. Releasing through the head, the neck, filling into some creative energy, filling into that ripple through the spine. Allowing your breath and your movement to stir that pot, find center, and let's reverse. And taking the opposing circles, filling into balance. Noticing if one side is a little tighter and more restricted than the other. Notice if one side feels more comfortable than the other. We'll take one final round. And then settle into stillness. And as you find the spine centered, long and strong, and we take our hands into prayer at heart center. Bowing the chin down to chest, release the elbows, create space through the shoulders and the ears. And with the head hung heavy, we consider that polarity within us. We consider our balance. And we feel into your Mayura, my Mayura, that energy of the peacock, knowing that there's a point, a position, a place where you feel free to get creative and extend your feathers and expose yourself to the world as you show yourself and shine through. But know that that polarity, as good as that feels to feel into my Mayura, your Mayura, know that we equally need to reset and begin again each night, each day. And just as the energy of Brahma was through creation, finding balance, that creative energy would not be as powerful, as bright, and as strong without these moments of rest, reprieve, and reset. Yogis, thank you so much for choosing to reset yourself with me today. Thank you for sharing my Mayura. Namaste.